I was working with a customer in Indiana, and they follow it's a Spec 23 sand for their concrete sand. And they reckon they were using $80 per hour to the pond. I was like, right, okay, so let's sit down, got the calculator out, 80 tons an hour. I says, what do you get for your 23 sand? He says, $18 a ton. I says, well, how long are you on a day? I was at 14 hours a day. And I was like, these are the numbers you give me here. I was like, that can't be true. I says, no, you give me these numbers.
That the sand aggregate plants, so it used to be the sort of rinse and screen, Evo wash, bread and butter plants. They're becoming way more challenging now than new sites, or even going into existing sites that are depleted through the easy material, starting to look at what they discarded in the past or whatever. Like, even scrubbing up front, it's not just the rinse and screen anymore for the aggregates. It's, getting into the scrubbing's more natural now with the clay bound material.
Not only are we the solution for simple and basic aggregate, we're the solution for the future, because we're going to invest that money back into the business and back into the industry so that we can continue to be the call that our customers need to make.
Like it's us selling essentially. So it's CDE taking your material sample, it's CDE testing your material, it's the CD engineer who's testing it, who's specing your plant, it's us installing it, supporting it. It's a solution. It's a solution.
Maintaining a spec product, and I guess it presents a challenge, but also presents an opportunity for CDE. Yes, the Evo Wash was a product CDE created over 30 years ago, but we've evolved over those 30 years with the new products such as the CFC upward flow classifier or the likes of the fine screens there. For dealing with the likes of materials that are heavily clay bound, have that belly in their feet. And I guess there's no two solutions for customers that are identical. I guess we're very lucky. Obviously the UK, it's where CDE was founded. It's where the majority of our people operate out of. But even now in the US, we have a serious team of people over there that absolutely we brand ourselves as a solution-based company. We've got people then to back that up. So, we have the products, but we also have the people then.
Welcome to the latest episode in the CD Vodcast. I'm your host, Lauren McMaster, and I'm joined today by three of my colleagues, Thomas Doyle, Craig Johnston, and Ronan Duffy. Just to give a few introductions before we kick off, Ronan is based in Texas, and he looks after our customers in Northern Texas, Oklahoma, and the Midwest. Ronan joined CDE as a graduate R&D engineer, and he also worked in project management, so he brings a real breadth of experience. We have Craig. He joined CDE in 2023, and he comes to CDE with 22 years experience in the construction industry in the US. And also Thomas Doyle followed a similar path to Ronan, starting off in R&D and then moving into business development in England. In today's episode, we're going to talk about sand and aggregates and look at some of the challenges faced across global markets. Sand and aggregates is where it all began for CDE over 30 years ago. And of course, over that time, we've learned so much and the technology has really advanced. Looking at your kind of global perspective, how have you seen the adoption of washing technology change over that period of time? You're maybe not old enough to reference 30 years ago.
Yeah, I know I had to grow the beard out for this video. Just a bit older, but thanks for having us, first of all. But yeah, so I relocated to North America a couple of years ago, and it's definitely transformed a lot even in my time. Obviously America's been built for years with the use of classifying tanks and screws. Back then resources were infinite, but what we're finding now is these resources are becoming more and more finite, which is really helping us in North America anyway, Craig.
So to put a number to that, just one of my customers in South Alabama in the last 18 months, they've closed 3 of their most productive quarries because of the quality of the aggregate available there, mainly just to pursue other resources that are more challenging to wash and more difficult to achieve a spec material from.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like CD, we've been incorporating the technology that we've been using for years. Really, the integral core product was the Evo Wash, which is about over 30 years. Being used today, and like Evo Wash is replacing screws monthly in North America. Obviously the Evo Wash comes with a whole host of benefits with recovering that fine material where more traditional technology would send that material to a pond, and that material is a value to it as well. If you consider a plant could use losing 30 tons per hour X dollars per ton, 30 tons an hour over the course of a year could be millions of dollars that the customers are losing. And, on top of the sustainability side of things as well, with that material, ending up in an on essentially.
Yeah, we run several we call them pond savings models, just different scenarios, different equipment, different methods of cleaning the ponds, getting the sludge out, getting the lost sellable material out. And it ranges anywhere depending on each individual set of circumstances. Some are as low as $1 a ton that they muck from the ponds, as we say in America. One place that has a particularly challenging pond that's down in a very deep hole, and they can only pull a certain number of loads before the ramp is too slick for even the most capable equipment to come out of. They're at $6 a ton to clean that pond. So there's a lot of interest from those guys of how do we avoid doing this again. So once we have this pond in a sustainable position for the clean out of maintenance, how do we not have to do this again for 20 years or 30 years or again?
But often what you find, like that material that these customers are using with their pond, it's usually, it could be your 30 mesh, 50 mesh, 100 mesh, but all that material fits in very well to, the C33 sand. I was working with a customer in Indiana, and they follow it's a spec 23 sand for their concrete sand. And they reckon they were using $80 per hour to the pond. I was like, right, okay, so let's sit down, got the calculator out, 80 tons an hour. I said, what do you get for your 23 sand? He says, $18 a ton. And I says, well, how long are you on a day? I was at 14 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, these are the numbers you give me here. He's like, that can't be true. I says, no, you gave me these numbers,
When you say C33, that's like, is that equivalent to the UK, like BSEN, I think it's 12620, like the 0 to 4 concrete sand? Or
C33 is the American classification for concrete sand.
Okay.
For government jobs, any DOT job, anything outside of residential driveways and things like that. C33 is the spec that has always been what we've considered the most desirable product for construction aggregates.
Yeah.
So obviously you get into other types of sand that bring more value, but as far as construction aggregates, the C33 spec is the gold standard that we try to achieve.
And I know in the UK, like historically, the sand deposits were quite rich. There was a lot of sand deposits. That's getting more tricky. They're going away. People are starting to process more difficult, looking at the alternatives, looking at contaminants, areas with contaminants, even trickier sand that's naturally falling outside of that bracket, and working at bringing it in. Are you seeing that in the US? Is that like similar to that story with them quarries closing? And
Absolutely. Like that, I referenced the three quarries for one customer earlier. That same customer's got a dredge operation in Georgia that they've had just an absolute nightmare of trying to maintain the spec. They can get all the material in the world out of this riverbed, but between organics, clay balls, and just a varying feed, the system they have in place can't meet the spec on a consistent basis. So they've actually had to utilize more of that material internally than they would like to. They've had an outlet for some of the sand, but when it falls out of spec, they've got no choice but to use it internally. Fortunately for them, they're in an industry where that allows them that freedom. But
so there's one thing that's obviously reducing the value of one material, and the other thing is maintaining a spec. Spec product, and I guess it presents a challenge, but also presents an opportunity for CD to live. Yes, the Evo Wash was a product CD created over 30 years ago, but we've evolved over those 30 years with the new products such as the CSC upward flow classifier or the likes of the fine screens there. For dealing with the likes of materials that are heavily clay bound, have that belly in their feet. And I guess there's no two solutions for customers that are identical. And which is why obviously Craig, myself, and you, Thomas, we're constantly going to sites, taking samples of feed material just to understand, what the customers are up against, what they're looking to produce, and we'll tailor that solution to their feed material, to what they're looking to, what their desired output products really are.
Just to touch on that, funny say that we were discussing, like, as a team within the UK and Ireland, team I'm in, that the sand aggregate plants, so it used to be the sort of rinse and screen Evo Wash bread and butter plants, they're becoming way more challenging now. The new sites, or even going into existing sites that are depleted through the easy material, starting to look at what they discarded in the past or whatever. Like, even scrubbing up front, it's not just the rinsing screen anymore for the aggregates. It's getting into the scrubbing's more natural now with the clay bound material, getting into the scalpings. Then that knocks down the process. Your sand's coming in with a higher clay content at the get go. You're into the classifiers. You're into taking the belly out. Assume by that you mean like the grading corrections and stuff like that in that sand, getting into spec. So we're seeing it all the time. I'm judging you're seeing it too. The sort of the normal has shifted a little, and it is getting to that point. You're just not the simple sand and aggregate plant isn't the simple sand and aggregate plant anymore.
Right, and that's one thing that we encounter at the deal. We have customers that have that. You call it a grading correction. We call it a belly in the sand. So, we would call them bellies.
That may be a topic I have, one name I have to take on.
As an out-of-spec sand. Yeah, but it's something a lot of customers have to deal with now, and it's frustrating for them because, we're going to ask for a feed gradation right off the bat, and they've got to provide an accurate feed gradation so we can provide them a proper solution. And talking about, I think we would be doing ourselves a disservice. While technology has improved and just at a national rate, so too has the experience and the knowledge and the focus on R&D. Absolutely. What we're doing now, 20 years ago, not only was it unheard of, it was undreamed of. So not only are we the solution for simple and basic aggregate, we're the solution for the future because we're going to invest that money back into the business and back into the industry so that we can continue to be the call that our customers need to make.
I guess we're very lucky, obviously the UK, it's where CD was founded, it's where the majority of our people operate out of, but even now in the US, we have a serious team of people over there that absolutely, we brand ourselves as a solution-based company. We've got people then to back that up. So, we have the products, but we also have the people then to back up the products that we sell.
Yeah, it's funny you say that sometimes when you're talking with a customer that's already been approached by one of our competitors,
usually later,
they're taken aback, they're caught off guard, and then the questions that we ask, the information they request, because they've been approached by somebody that just wants to sell them a piece of equipment. We want to solve their problem.
Correct.
So that approach sometimes gains you, if you're coming into a deal like I'm on right now. We came into the deal very late, but because the questions we ask are so specific and so technically important to find a solution, they've pushed back that purchase date. They've pushed back that decision time so that they can allow a better decision being made behind their business.
Yeah.
So it's
Craig, have you seen the adoption of washing kind of pick up in the US? We done a campaign around Why Wash back in 2020, launched at Con Expo. How has things kind of moved on in that market?
Wet wash has become more important because the spec has not been broadened. The tolerances have not been forgiven at all. If anything, remaining in spec has driven the industry more towards the wet washing because dry washing is, while it works on an easy deposit and it may work on a certain set of gradations, it doesn't fit when, like you mentioned earlier, contaminants, lignin, clay balls, things like that, organics. Dry washing just doesn't do that. Dry screening won't do that. It'll remove. It'll do well at what it will do well, but it is there. When it becomes a complicated process, it's just not going to work. So
those just come back, like the deposits now are just so much more challenging than what they were. Years ago, we have a plant there down south of Texas that's removing lignite.
Oh yeah.
Another one up in Michigan, and then Thomas, you mentioned in the UK, it's a big problem as well for coal.
Yeah, absolutely. Lignite's getting, as I said before, everybody was avoiding those deposits in the past, or if it was in a dig, it was discarded to one side. But there's no new digs. The time's come. We have to get processing off it. So we're seeing it way more often, especially past couple of years.
Additionally, I started to see a couple of instances where Michael's concerned. Where the CSCU script, that's it's such a difficult contaminant to remove, but with proper treatment, we could get there. We could get that sand in the spec. That product accepted.
Yeah, like in the UK, obviously you guys have the lab here in Kurdistan, and then also North America, just outside Fort Worth, we have our lab. So if there are already customers listening, we have, the means and ways to test your material and the ability then to, supply equipment that we can guarantee that you'll, be the spec product that you're looking to make.
Back to Craig's point, like it's us selling essentially. So it's CD taking your material sample, it's CD testing your material, it's the CD engineer who's testing it, who's specing your plant, it's us installing it, supporting it. It's a solution. It's a solution.
Performance guarantee on our contract.
Yeah.
For, the equipment we're providing is going to do the job that we're saying it's going to do. Sorry. That's your question there. Yes, it has.
That was a very, very detailed answer. I suppose another topic that's really at the front of everything is sustainability. And are you finding that customers are needing a bit more information around the sustainability side, and how is CDE technology helping meet those sustainability goals for our customers, even in that sand and aggregate space?
I'll say, as far as sustainability, the fact that we've focused on sustainability before it was even, and again, speaking for America, it was barely a word in America when CDE's been doing it for years. Just the focus we have on maximizing the recovery from the available deposit, putting as little as possible, all eliminating wasted sand, making sure that what goes to your bond is just absolutely unsellable material instead of what I did mention earlier, 30, 1500s. All of those mesh sizes will end up, no matter where you go, if there's a screw running, there's putting that material in there or some volume or another.
I guess another thing we haven't mentioned is, the water treatment side of CE. Yeah. The likes of the AquaCycle, clarifier, and filter press, so as Craig said, we try to maximize, the products and minimize the amount of byproducts.
Yeah.
And doing that, the likes of the AquaCycle, we recover over 90% of the processed water in the system.
Even to touch on the sustainability bit in the water with AquaCycle, you consider the journey the water takes without the AquaCycle, cyclone overflow, settling pond, tapped off the pond, process pond, back again. And we all know what the sites are like, that it didn't all happen just right beside the wash plant, so you've got all that pumping energy. All of a sudden, you had an AquaCycle, gravity takes the overflow to the AquaCycle, it's pumped back right there. You're eliminating all them pumping runs, big long pumps. Like, we've done a couple of studies for some of the natural quarries in the UK with CD plants who were historically using ponds. Again, life comes to an end on some things. I'm looking at adding an AquaCycle, and even if you just take the energy alone, the return on investment there and the savings, it's salvage, like, it's unbelievable.
They go to set up so much more as well. Right. There's more real estate that you can work with.
Yeah.
And with that real estate comes availability to run. That's an invaluable availability. The client we got, they saw an arch cycle a couple of years ago and were able to eliminate, if I recall correctly, 3 ponds that were probably just a sequence of settling ponds. And even with those 3 ponds prior, they were unable to run full shift because the processed water was coming in so dirty that they could not mix, that they couldn't meet spec. It was, you take somebody from a 6-hour production day and give them 10 hours. Mm-hmm. And even at the end of 10 hours, the water's cleaner than they ever recall seeing it before. That makes a huge difference.
You think of pond optimization, back to all the points, it covers them all. Like, if you've someone an inefficient sand process, whatever it is, non-hydrocyclone, the pond utilization is terrible. All of a sudden you go to an EvoWash, hydrocyclone, you're utilizing the pond even better. Go another step, AquaCycle, like the saving there, a struggling pond system, 2 bits of a kit, very small footprint, integrate into your system if it's there.
It's a big ties well, the likes of sand equivalents in there as well. We've seen a lot of problems up in the likes of Amarillo and North Texas. We're coming up against now, the sand equivalency, and
what do you mean by that sand equivalency?
It's when they have a level of clay that's too high in their sand to sell into the market to pass for C33 spec. So it'll be different in different parts of the US, but it's definitely a lot stricter in Amarillo. And so we have quite a few clients in that area, and they've come up against that in the past. We installed a CE system there, which is, make great improvements to the traditional technologies, be it screws and classifying tanks, where the sand's not getting a real good cleaning. When you think of a cyclone, it goes in at a high pressure, it's getting pumped, whereas material goes through a classified tank is quite stagnant. Once it makes its way along, it's just floating along, then it makes its way up a screw, and you're using a lot of fines, and the material is still quite dirty by the time it sits in the stockpile. And then when it's in the stockpile, it's decanting for a number of days before you can sell it into the market.
Just on moisture content alone, though.
Yeah.
Where the Evo wash, you're putting the sand on the ground after it comes up through water streams. Usually, 10-12% moisture. Exactly. Possibly even lower.
It's directly into the market.
When we get the drier summers, it can even go lower. But you show a customer a video of an Evo wash, and the sand dries, the moisture content's coming off versus the soot that they're pouring off there. That they're fighting run back. Mm-hmm. And then they go to put something out that they can put straight under their shark.
Mm-hmm. Suppose if somebody was listening to the podcast today and they're facing some challenges, hopefully one or two. So if anyone was listening and they were experiencing some issues, what would be kind of the next steps in terms of kind of speaking to somebody on the team?
Yeah, well, so obviously I cover North Texas and advised Craig, you'll have a territory. And
I've got Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Georgia.
And I've got South UK. Yeah.
And those areas you can call, contact goes through it.
Yeah, you've got the CD website, our LinkedIn page, any of us on LinkedIn, any CD, anywhere you see a CD logo, you can usually find us through that route. We've got a great marketing team that they're very aggressive with the way they pursue contacts within the industry and the way they communicate what we do and who we are to the industry. For those that don't know.
And just add to that into the website, if you think you've something here has resonated with a problem you have, or you think, if you have a look on the website as well at previous examples, we've got some good database there of projects we've done in the past, case studies from existing customers. There's a good chance in nearly 3,000 projects we've covered something similar, and we'll have some data on there as well, so you can have a read through that and a flick through as well.
Guys, I think that's maybe a good place to end. Thanks so much for your insights today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to find out more, we've linked some relevant resources below.